So we are on Perik Yud Aleph Pasuk Lamed Beis. That's where we got to. Yud Aleph Lamed Beis. 11:30. We're going to move further. We're going to move on ahead today. Just a couple of points here we want to finish up. Page 994. No, whoa, way past that. 998. Yud Aleph Lamed Beis. So the Torah says like this. Page 998. It's about 10 lines from the top. Ki atem ovrim es hayarden, when you're going to cross the Yarden, lo v'lo reshes es ha'oretz asher Hashem lokechem nosen lachem, v'richtem oso v'yishavtem bo. You're going to come to inherit the land. Something's not right here. Oh yeah. Ushmartem es lasos es kol hachukim v'es hamishpatim. You will. How does the article translate ushmartem? You shall be careful. Okay, we're going to see a different meaning of ushmartem. Lasos es kol hachukim v'es hamishpatim asher anochi nosen lifnechem hayom. So, the standard understanding of the pasuk is ushmartem lasos. You should be careful to do the mitzvahs. You know, you got to be careful to do the mitzvahs. You got to be careful not to mess up. You got to be careful to do what you have to do, and make sure that your tefillin when you put it. You got to be careful when you do mitzvahs. You know that the halacha says if the tefillin is down past the point where the hairline ends, the front tefillin is down past the point where the hairline ends, or once ended, as the case may be. As the what I'm coming for you afterwards. As the case may be. So then you haven't fulfilled the mitzvah of tefillin. You got to be careful. If you have a mezuzah and one letter is off, the mezuzah is possible. If you daven mincha, it's a minute after shkia, so you haven't been say the mitzvah. You got to be careful. Mitzvahs require a certain amount of vigilance, a certain amount of conscientiousness. Like anything else in life, you got to be careful. You know, an architect who makes a building, an architect who draws up plans, and one dot is missing, you know, there goes the bridge. There was supposed to be a bridge over there. They built it. Rabbi Salinger told me there was an incident in, I think, Spain, either Spain or Italy. They built this like 48-story building, and then they realized that after they built it, that from the 13th story and up, they did not leave place for an elevator shaft. Oops. Yeah, that's a big oops. So they had to then call it an American company to try to design something. It's only 25 stories with no elevator. So, you know, why? Because the architect left out one little dot. So when it comes to mitzvahs, that's how we have to be a little vigilant about the mitzvahs, number one. Now, turn all the way back to Parshas Vayeshev. Keep your finger on the place here, and turn to Parshas Vayeshev for a second. This is where Yosef has the dream. And it's on page 200. So Yosef has his dream, and he tells his dreams to his father. Now look at what Yaakov Avinu's reaction is. On the bottom of page 200. On the bottom of page 200. So it says, Yosef tells the dreams about how, I dreamt that you're all going to be bowing down to me, and your wheat's going to be bowing down to me, the sun and the moon's going to bow down to me. And then Yaakov Avinu trying to keep the peace over here. So 3 lines from the bottom. Vayigar bo aviv, his father scolds him. Vayomer ma chalom hazeh asher chalamta. What kind of dream is that? Vonovo ani v'imcha v'achecha l'ishtachu v'sachar tamor. Can I bow down to you? Vayikanu bo aviv, vayikanu bo echav. His brothers were jealous. V'aviv shamar es hadavar. Now, if you translate shamar as careful, like it does over here, so his father was careful with the matter. What does that mean? That doesn't make any sense in context. If you have a dream, I'll be careful with your dream. But I'm worried that your dream's going to come true. Yeah, you had a dream you're chasing me with a baseball bat. Now I got to be careful. So what does it mean his father was careful here? So Rashi says, shamar es hadavar. It's the left column of Rashi, 2 lines from the bottom. Hayamamtin umitzape mosai yovo. He was waiting and anticipating, when is it going to happen? So the word shamar could not only mean to be careful, it could mean to anticipate. Now turn back to the ranch. Where the Torah says over here, Ushmartem lasos es kol hachukim v'asabishpatim. So what does it mean in context? You should anticipate the chukim. And why do you need to anticipate it? because the Jewish people right now are being spoken to. They're in the desert. There are a lot of mitzvahs that you can't do in Eretz Yisrael. So what is Moshe Rabbeinu telling them? At a play level, listen, you're going to get them, and you got to be vigilant, and you got to be conscientious, you got to be careful. But at a different level, he's saying to them, listen, you can't do the mitzvahs now, but at least eagerly anticipate the mitzvahs, which is also a life lesson. If you, when you were a kid and you found out the next day you're going to the amusement park, so what's your mood? You can't even sleep at night. You can't even sleep. Yeah, you're so excited. You're going to the amusement park, and you'll finally be tall enough or old enough. You got to be 12, and you got to be 4 feet 10 inches tall to get on the supersonic dinner spinner, which you've always been waiting for. And then you finally get there, and they closed it for this year. Yeah, they what do you call it? It's closed this year. The supersonic dinner spinner, right? Which I'm sure some of you did go on rides like that. Some of us didn't. I was a demon on the merry-go-round, but that's anything that involves spinning. Why would I want to pay? Why would I want to pay to get on a ride which I really want to get off of? I was on a roller coaster a couple of times. I was on roller coasters, always against my better judgment, and my better judgment has changed in the last 40 years. So that hasn't happened. I did eat last night. I was reading and eating grapes at the same time. Yes. That's pretty daring, but that's as far as it goes. So here the Torah tells us an attitude that a person, when it comes to mitzvahs, you are eagerly anticipating going to the amusement park. You're eagerly anticipating, if I tell you that they're having steak for lunch, you're going to be they're not, by the way, but you'd be eager. I don't know what they're having, but I can tell you what they're not having. They're definitely not having steak. You could eagerly anticipate it, a little colder, Israel. You could eagerly anticipate, doing something enjoyable in life. There are certain things in life that you don't eagerly anticipate. When my wife says to me, oh, by the way, next week is my cousin Sydney, my cousin Sydney, his son has a bar mitzvah. We have to go. Your cousin Sydney? I mean, the one who always tells me about how the soil in Oklahoma is slightly different than the soil productivity in southern France. That cousin, the one who's got a theory about that if cars only had 3 tires instead of 4, so then it would affect global climate. You mean that cousin? Yeah. Right. I'm eagerly my enthusiasm level dwindles. Whereas if somebody would say to me, by the way, tomorrow morning in the yeshiva, they're going to be giving out paychecks. Yeah. Now we're talking. The enthusiasm changed. That's how we should feel about mitzvahs. Sukkot is coming up. Got to go out, schlep around looking for the 4 species. Or there's an attitude of, I can't wait to do this mitzvah. I'm eager to do the mitzvah. That's what the Torah is telling us. You have a mitzvah coming up, we should be eager. There should be enthusiasm. That's the rule. The attitude, I don't know why you're laughing, Israel. You didn't meet Sydney. The what do you call it? There is no cousin Sydney, by the way. I made up the name. But at the end of the day, there are plenty of situations like that. My relatives are coming for a visit. Can't we have another shiur that day or that week or that month? So that's the what do you call it? That's what the Torah is telling you here about eager and enthusiastic. Okay, let's go on. Take a look at Perek Yud Beis Pasuk Aleph. Where is that? Okay, a very interesting concept here. It's on the same page. I fooled you. In 4 lines on the bottom. Eile hachukim ve'amishpatim asher tishbrun lasos ba'aretz asher nasan Hashem Elokei osecha l'chol harishta. These are the statutes and the mitzvahs which you will fulfill in the land that Hashem your God gave you to inherit. Kol hayamim asher atem chayim ala adama. Now, there's a very interesting idea here. Imagine, Moshe Rabbeinu is saying these are the statutes that you're going to keep when you're in Eretz Yisrael. What do you think happened to Bnei Yisrael when the day they crossed? They crossed, the Nach says, the Yarden split, the Jordan River split, they went into Eretz Yisrael. What do you think? Israel, I'm not feeling it. I feel like I'm in a sauna over here.
2 degrees down.
I don't care about numbers. I don't care. I just want it to be cold. I don't care if it goes up. I don't care if it's malfunctioning on the number system as long as it's cold in the room. I could care less about the details. Yeah, I remember my friend when I got a computer. It took me a while. I needed a computer for writing, as I taught myself how to type, and I had a computer. But I didn't know the first thing about how to work it. So I called somebody in it was my brother, to teach me how to work the computer. So he starts talking to me about computer theory. Something's not right. He starts talking to me about computer theory. And I was just saying to him, I don't care. Get me to show me how the printer works. I just want to see paper coming out. That's what I wanted to see. I don't, it was like Winston Churchill, who he was very, very clever, very witty. And the Germans had the ship, the Bismarck, that was knocking out shipping. Did you ever hear of the Bismarck? The Bismarck, there was even a movie, Sink the Bismarck. And the what do you call it? Thank you, Israel. Is the movie starts with, it was Winston Churchill who gave the order. This was in World War II. I don't care how you do it, but you must sink the Bismarck. That was the famous, and the movie was called Sink. So I don't care how you do it, just make it colder. And I don't know if you're bringing in ice cubes I don't care if you're bringing a refrigerator from 40 years ago. Just get the room cold. So here the Torah says they went into Eretz Yisrael. The Yarden split and they go into Eretz Yisrael. What do you think was the feeling of Klal Yisrael when they went into Eretz Yisrael that day? What do you think they experienced? They crossed the Yarden and went to Eretz Yisrael. What do you think it was? I mean, a page ago, a family comes to Israel, they're making Aliyah. And they got to go get down to the dock and get their lift, and they got all the hassles and get their papers finally taken. And then you go down to the Misrad HaPnim and find out that there's still one paper that you're missing. If anybody has ever experienced that, we every time when we made Aliyah, each time we had to go back multiple times. You go there, and we got their first one in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and they give you a number 471. I go, how do we ever get number 1 over here? You know, until you get in, and eventually we'd pack a bag. First thing that went in was Tylenol, right? A lunch, Tylenol, a book, and a submachine gun. Right? That's what, pack a bag to go down to this. What do you think was it? They came into Eretz Yisrael across the yard. Miraculous splitting. Yoshua split, they caught him split the yard. They go in. What happened to Klal Yisrael when they went into Eretz Yisrael? Boom! They moved up. There was a spiritual experience. There was a ruchni growth when they came into Eretz Yisrael. Avira de Eretz Yisrael machkim. The air of Eretz Yisrael makes somebody wise. Chazal say, Ein Torah ketorah Eretz Yisrael. There's no Torah like the Torah you learn in Eretz Yisrael. So they entered Eretz Yisrael. So what happened? They didn't stay stagnant. There was a spiritual buzz over here. They moved up. Says the Torah over here. That experience is not a one-off. It's not a one-time experience. All of the days that you're in Eretz Yisrael, every day is going to be a new bump upwards. A guy who's learning to drive a car fast, a speed racer. So what does he do? He can't run out there, whether they race now, they about 200 miles an hour. He doesn't do it at 200 miles an hour. First, you got to get training. You hit it like what do you go? First, you start at about 80. And then you kick it up to 95, then 120, and you got to adjust to the speed. You got to make adjustments. That's what happens in Eretz Yisrael. That's what the potential is. If used correctly, the potential for ruchnius is that it moves us up in ruchnius. You can't go from 0 to 60 or 0 to 200. You got to move it up. And the ability of Eretz Yisrael is Eretz Yisrael could pick us up. If it's not a one-time jump from, okay, they were outside Eretz Yisrael, now they're in. The Torah is telling you, Kol Hayamim, every single day could be a bump upwards at Eretz Yisrael if you use it correctly. But that's if you use it correctly. How, if you should or should not, I'm not an Israel thumper, by the way. And we spoke about this either yesterday or the day before. If somebody says, should I live in Israel? The answer is it depends. I even heard of a Victor Miller on a tape. I actually heard the tape, and I couldn't make this up if I want. Well, I could, but I'm telling you what he said. When somebody asked him, and his question and answer is, should I live in Israel? He said, that's like asking me, should I live in Chicago? He used Chicago as an example. I was so happy. He didn't know I was listening. He said, it's like asking, why? Because it's what I told you a couple of days ago. It depends. Is this good for your growth, your overall growth, or it's not? If it's good for your overall growth, you should live in Israel. If you're for your overall growth, you need to live in Chutz La'aretz, or you need to live somewhere else, and then that's what you should do, because we're not in it for Israel. We're in it to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Where will you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu better? If you have Parnasa in Chutz La'aretz, and if you have family in Chutz La'aretz, and you have Chavrusas and a better yeshiva, and a better Rebbe, and a better shir, those are all part of the calculations. It's not just, let's go live in Israel. It doesn't work that way. Israel is, as Rav Dessler says, Israel is not an ends. It's a means to an ends, and it's one of the most powerful means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us. It's a piece of equipment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has, a very powerful piece of equipment. There are different pieces of equipment. You have a screwdriver, and you have a power drill, and you have a hacksaw, you have an electric saw. There's some different power, different level pieces of equipment. Eretz Yisrael is a piece of equipment to help us to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Used correctly, there are very few things as strong. If it's not the right thing, and I've seen it not be the right thing for people, they come to Israel, and maybe they get a little frustrated. They don't fit in, and it's hard to adjust to the society, and they can't find a parnasa. Then it's not the right place. That needs guidance from your Rebbe. That needs guidance from a personal mentor who knows you and knows what would be best for you in any situation. Okay, let's go on. Pasuk Daled. Okay, this is a very interesting concept. So the Torah says when you come into the land of Israel, so pick it up on Pasuk Gimel. You're going to see that they have all sorts of gods and deities and idols. And then on page 1,000, 3 lines from the top, V'nitatztem es mizbechosam, you should smash their altars. V'shibartem es matzevosam, you should break their one-stone altars. V'ashereihem tisruun v'esh, an asherah is a tree that they used to worship trees. Idol worshippers used to worship trees also. They had all sorts of different stuff. Ufsilei Eloheihem tigadeun, the idols of their gods you should chop down. V'ibadetem eshemam min hamakom, you should cause their name to go lost. That means the first thing the Torah says, you come into the land of Israel, get rid of the idols. Get rid of the idols, get it all out, get all the schmutz out. Imagine walking into a house and the house doesn't smell good. You bought a new house, it doesn't smell good because they left all sorts of garbage all over the house. So you got to get the garbage out of here, and you got to get the beer cans out of here, and you got to get the garbage out before you can start doing anything. First thing is get the garbage out. Then it says, Lo sasun kein laHashem Elokechem. Do not do so to Hashem your God. Now, what does that mean? So first of all, take a look at Rashi. Let's take a look. We're going to learn a whole Rashi here. Daled in Rashi on page 1,000. Right column, 5 lines from the top. Lo sasun kein. Everybody see that? If you don't see it, show the person next to you, please. Lo sasun kein, do not do so, lahaktir l'shamayim b'chol makom, to bring offerings to Hashem just anywhere you want. Rather, ki im ba'makom asher yivchar. The next pasuk says, the goyim, the pagans, so they used to bring their offerings to their gods all over the place. Wherever you want, you built an altar, you brought it up. And by us, it doesn't work. You can't just go build your backyard, build an altar, and bring a sacrifice. There's a specific place, a specified place. Davar acher. This is what I want to get to now. There's another pshat. V'nitatztem es mizbechosam v'ibadetem es shemam. You should smash their altars and cause their names to go lost. Lo sasun kein, but you should not do it. Azhara lamochek es Hashem. This is a warning to somebody who erases God's name. When it says lo sasun kein, don't erase God's name. V'noseis even min hamizbeach, or somebody who breaks a stone off the altar in the Beis Hamikdash. I'll tell you an incredible story in a second. O min ha'azara, or from the sanctuary. Amar Rabbi Yishmael v'chisal al daitcha Yisrael gnosim notim b'hamizbechos. Would you think that the Jews are going to go breaking the altars in the Beis Hamikdash? Elo shelo sasu k'ma'aseyem, don't behave like the goyim. V'yigramu avonoseim l'mikdash avosechem sheyechrav. Don't behave like them and cause that the altar, that the Beis Hamikdash should be destroyed. There are 2 things Rashi is saying here. Number 1, you're going to smash their altars, erase their name. Don't do that to God. Don't erase God's name. What does it mean, don't erase God's name? That means don't, if you see Hashem's name is written, you can't erase it. You got to be careful not to erase God's name. Number 1. Number 2, Rashi says that you're obviously not going to go smashing altars and breaking stones off the Mizbech and the Beis Hamikdash. So what does it mean? It means don't behave in a way that would cause the Beis Hamikdash to destroy, which the Chafetz Chaim says. Anybody who behaves nowadays in a way that would have caused the Beis HaMikdash to be destroyed. That means we're preventing the Beis HaMikdash from being rebuilt. A person, who is that? That is somebody who is an Baal Meriva. A Baal Meriva means a quarrelsome, contentious person. Somebody who causes fights, he's arguing, and by the way, there's always one or two on the block, in the shul for sure. There's always going to be that guy. There's always going to be that guy, the Korach of the community Korach. They're always lurking. And there's one or two of them in a shul also. No matter what the shul wants, why? What do we need to spend the money on for a bunch of ganovim? Right? There's always one or two of those lurking. So a person like that stopping the Beis HaMikdash from being built. Every time there's some issue, he's fighting about something. I just saw on the train now, okay, one of the guys was an Arab. He was an older Arab. And there was a younger Jewish guy. And I'm sitting there and I hear behind me also he says, why don't you watch where you're going? So what happened was that the Jewish guy, as he got on, he was a younger guy, he got on the seat. This Arab had some sort of package. He nicked him. He barely left room for anybody to pass. And he passed by, he kind of brushed into him. So he made a big issue out of it. People make big issues that are Baal Meriva. And everything, you have to say everything, make a big issue out of it, make a big deal out of everything. So the Torah says, number one, the guy is somebody who's a Baal Meriva is transgressing this. Somebody who's an argumentative person. You're always insisting you're right, and somebody, what do you call it? A person like that is stopping the Beis HaMikdash from being built. So that's number one. Number two, the Torah says you can't break stones off of the altar and off the thing. So Rav Zilberstein had an interesting shaila. Shaila came to Rav Elyashiv. There was a non-Jew in America whose wife was sick, and he had a secular Jewish friend in Israel. And he asked him, he know about the Western Wall, what we call the Kaisel, and he said to him, do me a favor, I know that it's a powerful wall, maybe you could break off a piece of a stone there and give it to me, I'll use it for my wife. Maybe that'll help. So the guy went to the Kaisel and he chipped off a piece of stone from the Kaisel. And then he went to Chutz, he got it to Chutzars, gave it to this guy, the Goy. The guy touched it to his wife, and shortly after that, she died. I guess he hit her on the head with it. I'm not sure, but he touched it. According to her, so he touched it to her, and she died. Okay. So he felt bad, and he got the stone back to his friend in Israel. And then they went to Rav Elyashiv and asked Rav Elyashiv how to do tshuva for such a thing. You just broke a stone off the kaisel. So Rav Elyashiv said, before anything, get that stone put back. They had to go to the kaisel, manage get the stone replaced on the wall. You know, people are desperate. They broke a stone off a kaisel. Most of the time, that doesn't happen. Where it's more, but it's an interesting story that the guy, you know, that the goy thought that the kaisel could help him. That's an interesting part of the story. The next part is a little trickier, and that's not erasing God's name. Now, I heard about a kid who went into a cheder. A kid was upset with his yeshiva. So he went up to the blackboard. Yeah, it could have been an 8th grade kid. You hear the story? Kid was upset. They got him upset. So he took magic marker, some indelible ink, and on the blackboard or whiteboard, whatever you call this board behind me, he wrote Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, right across the whole thing. So now it's a shaila, what do? You can't erase it. And by the way, you can't fill in the letter. Just take the Yud and make it so now it looks like a box. Once Hashem say, that would be the simplest thing. You know, just close it. You understand what I mean? He wrote a Yud, so then just write a thing like that and close it up. Doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. They posket that they have to take the entire board and put it in the Gniza. They put the entire board in the Gniza. Got Hashem's name right across the board. How do you like that? There was another guy who asked, he did it to, he was upset with his friend, so he did it, his friend, he had like dust on his car. So he put a Yud Kei Vav Kei right across the windshield. So there, Rav said, you don't have to put the car in the Gniza. Take out the windshield. So there, Rav Zilberstein said he could leave the car outside till it rains and the rain will wash it off. I was thinking, you know, if you're really upset with somebody, you write it right across the car door with indelible ink right across. You can never open that door. I'm not saying to do it, by the way. I mean, the guy, whatever it is, to do it is a terrible affair to cause Hashem's name to be erased. But that's what it's talking about. It's talking about to what he called. You're not allowed to erase Hashem's name. You got to be very, very careful about this. And that's why there's a Geniza. What do you do with the Sefer Torah? What do you do with the Sefer Torah or mezuzah or something? You put it in the Geniza. That's why it has to be buried. There is a sofer. I have a friend who's a sofer, and I had heard about this, and I confirmed it with my friend who's a sofer. What happens is a guy's writing a Sefer Torah, writing on parchment, and let's say he makes a mistake. So in a mezuzah and in tefillin, it's a little trickier because you can't go back to a mistake. It has to be erased. It's a much shorter thing. What about a Sefer Torah? You made a mistake. Okay, sometimes they have to erase a letter or correct a letter. What if the guy has to erase Hashem's name, made a mistake in Hashem's name? Can't start erasing there. So what do you do? Under normal circumstances, you have to take that what's it called? What's it called? The Uriah, what's it called in English? That column, because the Sefer Torah is made of columns that are stitched together. You have to take that whole column and put it like these. There's nothing you can do with it. There is a sofer in Yerushalayim that I've heard of. I had heard this story. Then I checked it. I confirmed with my friend who's an expert sofer. This sofer is able to cut through. If this is the parchment, the parchment is fairly thick. He's able to cut through and cut out Hashem's name in one piece without making a hole in the parchment. So if there's a hole in the parchment, they'll good also. There's enough thickness in the parchment that he could cut through in order to be able to. So I asked my friend if he ever heard of this. He said, yeah, he's been to the guy. I said, what kind of equipment does he use? Well, what do you think? How does he do it?
Laser.
Huh? A laser? What's that?
Kitchen knife.
You're very close. He takes just a plain razor blade, and he just bends it between his fingers with a razor blade. No special equipment. And just kind of, cuts through. And I guess he's got a special tab. But he does say in advance, by the way, if I mess up, no responsibility. And it's not 100% sure, not 100% that it's going to work. Not 100% that it's going to work. But it's enough that but we have to be very careful. You can't erase Hashem's name. And that becomes a problem for a sofer. For a sofer, it's a problem. If the Sefer Torah is what do you call it? Did I tell you a story about the doctor, by the way? About the secular doctor? No. Okay, so this also, the reason I just remember, I think I was going to say it on Tisha B'Av, but didn't work out. There was a woman was sick, and they found an older white lady, and they found a growth, and she had to have a serious surgery. I heard this at a Shiva house recently. She had to have a very serious surgery. So the family is from family, and they came down to the hospital to daven. They had all the sons, the son-in-laws, the grandsons, all the males in the family came down, and they had a big tefillah session in the hospital. Okay, they finished the tefillah session, and the chief surgeon is a secular guy. He comes over, he says, okay, and I'm going to prep her up for surgery. She's going to prep for surgery now. The only thing is I want to do one more scan before we go in. So one of her sons said to him, why do you have to do another scan? You did the scan already. He said, look, I'm secular. I've been doing this for years. I've seen hundreds of times that when religious families come here before a surgery and they daven, I then find that things could change. Not always and not every time. But it's happened to me enough times that once, if the family gathers for this type of tefillah session, I will not go into surgery without doing another scan, because it's happened to me enough times that things have changed. I was very moved by the story, and the story, the best part of the story is he didn't say it happens every time, and I've seen it instantly. And the woman that was 90 years old suddenly turns 45. He didn't say anything like that. He just said, I've seen it happen enough that I can't go into the surgery with confidence without doing another scan. That's just we see tefillah works. We see tefillah has the power. We know tefillah works, but we see that sometimes the immediate effects down here. Okay. Question? Somebody have a question? Okay. One more point. Take a look at Pasuk Hey. Yeah.
Just Hashem's name you can't erase. But you're saying if it's like, let's say in English, can you erase that or other stuff?
You're not supposed to erase Hashem's name if it's written out. We're not even supposed to say it. You don't have to say, people take Hashem's name, just the English name God, which I could say now because we're for teaching purposes. But people say that about everything. Even if you ever hear people say, oh my gosh. Why do you think that people say gosh? What's gosh from? I think it's a kinoi. It's just, instead of saying God's name, so they switch the D to a shah. But people, everything becomes, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Listen to seminary girls talking. Oh my gosh.
That's a problem?
Yeah, to say Hashem's name without, even in English, to say Hashem's name for purposelessness is definitely a problem.
But they changed it around.
To the gosh, I'm not sure it's a problem, but it's certainly not a good habit. But people, I'm saying gosh, but people say God all the time. I swear to God, oh my God, people say that all the time. Just on trivialities. What's wrong with it is you're trivializing Hashem's name. You just said it's a triviality. What, that's what Hashem's name means to you? Oh my gosh, the salad is awesome. So you got to bring in Hashem's name into it, and it's awesome. Everything is awesome and amazing nowadays. Wow, this lettuce is awesome. Awesome used to be the Grand Canyon. Niagara Falls was awesome, not your lettuce. Everything's trivialized. You're not trivializing Hashem's name. That's why, well, let me ask you a question. You saw me make a bracha. What if I made a bracha? Oh, that was really good. And I make another bracha. Because I'm so devoted. It's called a bracha levatala. It's a wasted bracha. You just took Hashem's name in vain. But I made a bracha because I appreciate it. What's wrong with it? You know what's wrong with it? You just trivialized it. Have you ever met somebody who is overly grateful to the point of nauseating? Thank you. Oh, 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 thank you. Thank you for everything. Listen. At a certain point, it loses any meaning if you're going to do that. It just loses any meaning. So you're trivializing it. Yeah, you're supposed to be thank you. If you thank your wife, you're supposed to thank your wife. Thank you for the meal. Thank you for this. If you just all you do is say thank you to your wife, she don't want to hear that. Even a wife. Because you trivialized it. Now you're trivializing Hashem's name. You're associating Hashem's name with your nonsense. Make a bracha one time. You go taking the king's name and just go like that. Okay, one more point. Pasuk Hey, Ki imel hamakom asher yivchar Hashem lokechem. Don't go bringing sacrifices at just anywhere. Rather, el hamakom asher yivchar Hashem lokechem mikol shiftechem, to the place which Hashem has chosen, lasum shemosham, l'shichnos tzidrushu uvasa shama. How does he translate the interesting turn of phrase? His name, to place his name there, shall you seek out his presence and come there. L'shichnos tzidrushu uvasa shama. You can't bring offerings just anywhere. You have to bring it to a specific place. You should have an obvious problem with this pasuk, gentlemen. You should have an obvious problem. What's the obvious problem? Rather, to the place that Hashem your God chooses. What's the problem with that?
You haven't chosen the place yet.
He's chosen the place. He hasn't. You're half right. He chose it, which means you're also half wrong. He chose the place, right? He's chosen the place. But he hasn't what? What? He didn't tell us the place. It says to the place that Hashem your God will choose. So he chose the place, but he hasn't told us the place. Why didn't you just say to the basic Yerushalayim, to Har HaMoriah in Yerushalayim? Why did you just say that openly? To the place. So there are several approaches here. How did they figure out the place? Because later on, based on Psukim, Dovid HaMelech and Shmuel HaNavi, they darshaned where the place must be. And they realized, based on Psukim, that Kodesh Baruch Hu wants the Beis HaMikdash built at the highest point, but not necessarily the highest point. It should be between two mountains, because just like the Gemara says, that the area between, first they thought to build it on the absolutely highest place in Yerushalayim. Then they realized that the best cut of meat in an ox is the shoulders, between the shoulder bones. So down a little bit, that's where the mountain, which is down a little bit between slightly higher mountains, that's the place for the base of it. That's how Shaul and Dovid HaMelech arrived at that conclusion. But why didn't Torah tell it to you over here? Why did the Torah say where the place is exactly? So one of the Mefarshim says that the Yevusis were living in Yerushalayim. The Jewish people, when they came into the land, they could not drive out the Yevusis because there was a pact that was made between Avram Avinu and the Yevusis. So they couldn't drive them out. There's a concern that if the Torah would say where it's going to be, and this is before the Jewish people, if everybody knew exactly where it's going to be before the Jewish people go into the land, and the Yevusis find out that, Mount Moriah, Har Moriah, Yerushalayim, that's where they're going to build the Beis HaMikdash, then they would have plowed the place down. A concern for the Yevusis. That's one idea. There's another idea. And this goes back to what we learned with the Ori, but in the cities of refuge. A guy killed somebody unintentionally. Oops! He oopsed somebody to death. So now what does he do? He goes to the city of refuge. What does he do when he gets to a crossroads? How does he know what do you do? There's a crossroads, and this guy's running for his life. This guy's running for his life. The guy's brother is after him with a shotgun. He just killed somebody. So what does he do? So there's a halacha. At every crossroads, they actually had to have like a hand with a finger pointing and a sign that said miklat, miklat. Miklat, miklat. There was at the crossroads. You had to know how to get to the area miklat. So the commentators asked, so why didn't they have Yerushalayim? Why wasn't Yerushalayim clearly with signs? 3 times a year, the Jewish people go up to Yerushalayim. So why don't they have a crossroads that says Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim? Yashar, Yashar, Yamina. Why didn't they have what do you call crossroads, signs at a crossroads where Yerushalayim is, where the Beis HaMikdash is? The answer is, a guy who killed somebody unintentionally obviously has some sort of spiritual flaw. There's something negative. The guy's not careful. He's not careful. He's got something internal which is not right if he could be so negligent that he actually goes and kills somebody unintentionally. He was driving his car. I just saw a guy yesterday driving his car around the curve where kids play. The guy's what do you call it? It's gross negligence. He's got a problem. A guy like that, we don't want him associating with other people because he may influence other people. So if he's on his way to the Ori Miklat, he has to ask you, hey, tell me something, Aaron, where's the city of refuge? Why? Where are you going? Yeah, let's go, bro. We're going to have a great time. I don't want you near him, and I don't want him associating with you. I don't want him talking to people. You get to the cities of refuge. You let the Levium take care of you over there. They'll educate you. What about a guy who's going up to Yerushalayim? He's going up to do mitzvahs, and he's not sure which way you go to Yerushalayim. Then he stops. He says, "Hey, Aaron, which way is Yerushalayim? Why? What are you going for?" Well, we're going up. It's soon it's going to be Sukkot over there. We gotta bring offerings, and there's going to be a lot of Simchas Beis HaShoeva. And I heard they got great Chinese restaurants there. It's really going to be a happening thing. And I said, oh, wow, can I come? Well, yeah, sure, come on, hop on the wagon. And that's what we want. So the Meforshim say, you know why it's ambiguous? It's ambiguous because we want people talking to each other about where it is. Because we want people and positive things influencing each other. I have to tell you one last point. Because it has to do with influencing. Do you have time? Do you have time for wait, we got another minute? It's a shame not to. Later on, you know what? We'll keep it for tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. It's a big point. It has to do with how to make a lot of money quickly. We'll just wait till tomorrow.